I think it's a very important question. I think there are forces, both internal and external, that don't want democracy to prevail in the region, in the country, and in the region. Like the situation in Egypt, the fall of the former dictator Hosni Mubarak was a very big alarm sound in some areas of the Gulf region, especially the UAE and other places. And these autocracies that exist have now become very concerned that the toppling of dictators and the prevalence of democracy in the region is going to be a direct threat to them and to their rule. And therefore, they decided to fight against democratic movements and democratic experiments in the region and pour enormous amounts of money and funding to various players, agents provocateurs, and all counter-democratic movements. And I think because of the high levels of poverty, high levels of unemployment in the region, they succeeded to enroll quite a few. And we have seen this unfold in Egypt, where the army was already very powerful, and even with the democratic transition, the army was still the major player in the game, and they managed to stay abreast of any developments and control the whole situation. And later on, when they decided that the time was right, and with the pressure that keeps coming from different players in the Gulf region and other places, they decided to go ahead and topple the late President Morsi, the first democratically elected president in Egypt, in the history of Egypt. And we are witnessing some similarities in the situation. It's a little bit different because Tunisia, the army, has never been that powerful. It's an institution also that has never been really part of the repression. Former dictators Bourguiba and Ben Ali relied on the police and the intelligence services to repress the people and maintain their dictatorship. So the military institution was actually a major factor in the success of the 2011 uprising in Tunisia. And therefore, because there was no killed in the streets, no people killed and executed extrajudicially in the streets, people were more, actually, they had this boost and believed in the success of their experiment. So there are similarities and there are differences,
sure.
But I think there are a lot of similarities between both situations that we need to observe very closely. I think, the people on the streets initially back in the early days of the Arab Spring or the Arab uprisings, where there were multiple demands. Some of the people demanded the return of civil rights and human rights and civil freedoms and media freedoms and all that. But a lot of people, actually, the average Joe in the street, the average Muhammad in the street, was mainly concerned about the improvement of the economic conditions. And I think this is the problem with democracy. Democracy works, but it works at a slow pace because there are a lot of compromises to be made. There are a lot of discussions, a lot of debates between different forces. So it takes time to establish a successful economic experiment or economic platform that is growing fast and giving employment and social benefits to people. So because of that, the UAE and other forces are trying to discourage people to follow the path of democracy. They're pumping money into the forces that are against democracy, but they're also using their media. They have dozens of media, Arabic-speaking media or English-speaking media, and they're reaching out to people to kind of tell them the message, the narrative that the Arab Spring has failed, that you got nothing, everything is even worse than before. And in some aspects, there might be some truth in this because the economy has failed to pick up, has failed to improve post 2011. But let us not forget, in the case of Tunisia, there were a lot of terrorist attacks that are very suspicious from Daesh and from other places that have destroyed the the economic platform that is represented by tourism, and a lot of the dividends that were coming from this very lucrative economic activity has disappeared, has dwindled for quite some time, and this has even affected other sectors as well. So there is a domino kind of effect, and sometimes I think the politicians from different sectors or different political spectrum needs to be mindful that the economic situation, the social situation is extremely important in order for people to remain committed to democracy and remain in the path of democracy. This is 100% spot on. I mean, let us just not forget. I mean, the United States back in January was on the verge of another coup via mob. Yeah, so this is why I would really advise the viewers to be vigilant when it comes to these images of mobs and counter mobs, because there is no absolutely, I mean, no credence to these movements, because there is a lot of manipulation, there is a lot of disinformation, and this is why democracy has to be a play field that is even for all players. Because if we don't want something to happen in our societies, if we don't like some kind of practices in our societies, the polls should be the answer to whatever we want, and we have to have the power of mobilization, and we have to work politically in order to achieve those aims and objectives. But if everybody disliking something relies on force, on violence, or on mobs, that's not acceptable. And I think that we should be really vigilant across the board, and not just in Tunisia, everywhere, because democracy remains the best platform, political platform for societies to excel and move ahead. Dictatorship, we know what dictatorship is, and we know the negative effects and nefarious effects of dictatorship. With every dictatorship is suffering, and I can bring you hundreds of examples, but I'm sure the viewers will be bored by that. But it's definitely the case that dictatorship is a problem for the citizen. It creates a lot of frictions, a lot of problems for the average citizen, and the repression is way above any kind of acceptable level. So I think people need to be careful with that.
Yeah.